June 4th, 2020. Hi, my name's Tom Yakopin, and this is Yakopinions, the shorter 10-minute version of the Tom Yakopin podcast. Welcome. Again, if you're interested in learning more about the Tom Yakopin podcast, seeing some archived versions, you can see us on Facebook, the Tom Yakopin podcast, or YouTube, Yakopinions or the Tom Yakopin podcast. So, welcome. It is, wow. I turned 59 April of this year. And this is, I have to tell you, one of the most unique periods of time I've ever lived in. Okay. Wow. And that's saying a lot. I mean, I remember seeing videos of Woodstock, and then prior to that, the whole Vietnam thing. I remember people wearing the silver wristbands, for the missing in action or the prisoners of war in the Vietnam era. Remember issues. I had an older sister who had a slightly older crowd, tied into the Janis Joplin, Jefferson Airplane, again, the Woodstock era, and they lived it, right? I saw that right up to and through today, including Waco and Ruby Ridge and the crazy stuff like that in the 90s. And here we are today, coronavirus, which still to me, okay, I have more questions than answers, and I'm a very curious boy, all right? I ask a lot of questions. I want to know why. And I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I trust numbers, and so I have a lot of questions about that. But, then following, here we are current event-wise. Wow. In such an amazing time where we see police brutality, murder, perhaps a failed justice system, which maybe is amending its ways in that they are changing and upgrading the murder charge, as I understand it, as it relates to the police officer, Mr. Chauvin, who allegedly murdered or participated in murder, second degree, as I understand it now, with Mr. It was George Floyd. Wow, tragic, horrible. Very interesting times, and then the events following that, including 5 officers shot dead in Dallas that I find as reprehensible as the other murder. I mean, wow, just very interesting. But I want to talk today with you a couple of things. Perhaps one of the most important questions that must be answered, and in fact are answered for all of us to varying degree. But one of the most important questions that I think defines human behavior, and by the way, I believe that the events today in the United States of America and the world, both in response to coronavirus and in response to this horrible crime of second-degree murder, alleged second-degree murder. But I believe that above all of that, and in spite of that, that we are better, and we must have a direction and a vision to move forward, okay? A lot of interesting things going on. So I want to ask you a question. When you think of who you are, if I were to ask you to fill in the following blank, I am blank, what would that be? Would it be I am benevolent? Would it be I am courageous? Would it be I am loyal? Would it be I am faithful? Would it be I am white? Or would it be I am black? Why do I ask you this? Because I believe that one of the issues that must be looked at fairly and squarely by each of us, red, yellow, black, and white, is who are we? These events, this issue of the rioting and the looting and fighting or trying to overcome evil and injustice with more evil and injustice seems to me to be an insanity of sorts. And we seem to be using tools of the very DNA of that which we are attempting to fight. In other words, becoming uber race conscious and attempting to fight racism with reverse racism, attempting to overcome violence with more violence. How is that going to work in light of principles or laws that govern the universe or the kingdom of God as we understand it? How's it going to work? So I want to ask you, when you think of who are you, are you, in my case, am I a white, German, Irish male, adopted by a white, Caucasian male and female from the Austrian-Hungarian Empire? What am I? Are you a black male from Baltimore, Maryland, or are you a member of the human race? Here's another question I want to ask. What is our end goal with race relationships? White, black, yellow, red. What is our end goal? I believe that when it comes to race, and you can see this on our webpage or on this podcast right here, that there is one race and that race is the human race. And that the one thing we can do to overcome our difference or our division or our uniqueness, which I believe is simply part of creation, by the way. It's contrast. I'm glad that when God made the birds, if you believe in God or however the birds got here, if you don't, I'm glad there's diversity. I'm glad there's blue ones and red ones and yellow ones and big ones and little ones and predators and hummingbirds and birds that are water. I like that. I like it. You know, and I cannot believe, I struggle to believe that the human race of its own, without organized agitation and a very, I don't know, I hate to use the word evil because evil's just so evil, you know, but let's say nefarious. There seems to be a nefarious organized purpose, a lockstep, a unity, not only here in the United States, but around the world, not only with COVID, but with this issue of racism, institutional racism, in fact, but then also this business of unity among humanity, right? And my question is, what do we want? What is the end game? How do we resolve some of the issues that we are facing today in the United States of America, in Oregon, in New York, in Baltimore? Wow. How do we resolve in Pittsburgh, where I live? I'm of the opinion that there are far more of us that believe in common, that we are one race, the human race. I believe I see a lot of unity with whites and blacks and Latinos and Asian in my community. At any rate, I'm going to bring this to a close. I'd love your opinion, but I want to close this by saying, what can we do practically to overcome whatever evil your understanding is? I believe it could be as simple as love one another as you would indeed want them to love you. What if that could change everything? What if loving one another really is the answer? What if instead of the violence of celebrating my difference, I looked for our similarity as members of the human race, red, yellow, black, and white? My name's Tom Yakopin. This is the Tom Yakopin Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Just my opinion, my 2 cents. Love to hear from you. Bye for now.